Hi, welcome to our first webinar. So these sessions that we're having is just sort of a short talk format to discuss pathways after SPM, since I think there's quite a lot of information out there and it might be a little bit difficult to sort of sift through all of it and understand exactly what is accurate information and what is misinformation. So we're just doing a couple of webinars focused on specific SPM pathways just to give SPM and IGCSE leavers a little bit more clarity. So for our first webinar, we decided to discuss about A levels, which is, I think, one of the most famous SPM pathways. So let's get started. So what is A levels really? A levels is a UK-based pre-university qualification at the advanced level. And I think an easy way to think of it is as a UK version of STPM. Some people even find it easier than STPM. I think I'm one of those people. I think that STPM is slightly more challenging than A-levels, but the syllabus is pretty similar. Most Malaysians who want to study overseas take A-levels, especially sponsored students. And one thing about A-levels is that the use of English is fairly advanced and refined, but not to worry because many preparation resources are available online. And as we mentioned earlier, a lot of sponsored students prefer to take A-levels because their sponsors tend to choose this since it's internationally very well established and well recognized globally. I think almost any country that you can think of to further your studies just accept A-levels as a qualification. So who does A-levels basically is IGCSE leavers and SPM leavers because the syllabus itself is a continuation from IGCSE, although some parts of it do overlap with the SPM syllabus content. So in my opinion, SPM students do have a slight advantage since some of the content is similar. So just to give you a rough idea of the different A-level exam boards. So the A-level exam boards are basically the bodies who set the exam papers itself. So the first one is the most famous one, which is Cambridge International, CIE. It's the most popular and it's probably the most flexible one. The next one is Pearson Edexcel, which is mainly taken by UK students and international schools in Malaysia. There's also Assessment and Qualifications Alliance, AQA, which is also taken by mostly UK students. And then there is Singapore A-levels, which does have a fairly higher standard than the other bodies because it's tailored specifically to Singaporean students. And then there's also OCR, which is mostly taken by UK students. So most Malaysian colleges do take the CIE papers. So let's talk a little bit more of the finer details of A-levels. In terms of duration, most private colleges offer it for 1.5 years, which is 18 months. And then certain colleges like KYUEM, KPJ, and also some special programs for sponsored students offer it for 2 years. But then this duration does vary from college to college. I know some places offer a slightly fast-tracked program, which is for 15 months. And then there are also certain programs which is like in the middle of 1.5 years and 2 years. They offer a 21 months program for students who would like to take a slightly slower pace. The cost also varies very heavily from college to college. It ranges from 25,000 all the way up to 200,000. But not to worry because some colleges do offer up to 100% scholarships for SPM high achievers. But you do have to have done some very good research about the college since it varies very heavily from colleges. So since we're talking about how it's very important to pick the right college since there's so much variation with A-levels, here are some schools that offer A-levels. The first one, probably the most famous, College Yayasan UEM in Lembah Merigin. This college has many sponsored students and even the students that are self-funded are also very high achieving. The next one is College Tunku Jaafar. This one also has many sponsored students. And then after that, there's Taylor's College and Sunway College, which is probably the most famous options to do your A-levels. And then there's MCKL, Methodist College Kuala Lumpur, Hope University, UCSI College, and Inti International College. But these are just a few examples. So let's dive into the actual academics of it. The curriculum style of CIE, we'll get started on that. There are up to 55 available subjects. Most students take around 3 to 4 subjects, some take as many as 5, but this varies very heavily from college to college because some colleges actually only allow up to 4 subjects maximum. The subject combination also depends on your college since some may not offer certain subjects. So in our slides here, we have displayed the subjects that are more commonly taken according to which field you would like to further your studies in. So next, since we've talked about the subjects that you can take, let's go on and talk about the assessment format. So A-levels is 100% exam-based. There are no presentations, no additional subjects like MPU subjects, or I know some other courses like Foundation have community service. We don't have subjects, and we don't have extra subjects like that. There is also no concept of carry mark. Class tests don't contribute any value to your final grades. So where do your marks actually come from? The first one is at the AS level, you sit for an exam which is the 50% of your final grade. And then at the A2 level, the scores will take up the remaining 50% of your final grade. So exams are, there are 2 exam sittings per year. The first one is in May, June, and the second one is in October, November. So an example of your AS and A2 level schedule is if you registered for maths, for an example, and you joined in August 2024. If you join the 2-year program, you will sit for your AS level in June 2025, and you will take 2 of the maths papers, which is Pure Maths 1 and Stats 1. And then you will take your A2 in the following year, June 2026, where you take Pure Maths 3 and Mechanics. But do note that since maths is used in it as an example, there are few components under the maths and further maths papers, so it does vary quite heavily in terms of the papers that you take in AS and A2. And then the next example would be if you have registered for the 1.5-year program, you take your AS level in June 2025, where you take Pure Maths 1 and Stats 1, and then you would sit for your A2 at the end of that same year, where you take Pure Maths 3 and Mechanics. So since we've talked about sitting for your exams and how the assessments work, let's talk about the grades. So I think the grades are pretty similar to what we've been exposed to before, where at the AS level, it is split into A, B, C, D, and E. And I think the range is also pretty similar to what we've been exposed to. And then at the A-level grade, which is your total A-level final grade, that one is also the same, but for A's, it's split into A star and A, whereas at the AS level, it's just an A. So another thing to note is that with A-levels, your grade is determined by your percentile, not your actual final score on your exam paper. So percentile means that if you're in the 90th percentile, you are at the top 10% of all of the students who took this exam in your batch. So the top 10% would then get you an A-star grade. As for awards for A-levels, there are 2 types. The first is top in the world and top in your country. Okay, so just to wrap things up, here's some additional information about A-levels. The first thing is grade thresholds, which is raw marks for each grade, are available on the official website. Here we've shown an example of the Cambridge grade threshold, where you can see exactly what score you need to get from that paper to get the grade that you would like to achieve. And the next thing to note is that most subjects are taught in English, like we mentioned earlier, so a pretty proficient English level is required. The next thing is that there are many free online past year question banks to practice with. For example, Papa Cambridge, Save My Exams, and there's also an app called Rove Papers. So I think this is what makes A-levels, I think this is the one benefit that A-levels has compared to SPM, where there are a lot of free resources online. And then the last point to note is gap years. Some students take a year off between their A-levels to do supercurricular activities like internships, Olympiads, competitions to sort of stack up their CV a little bit. Where does doing A-levels get you? So earlier we spoke about how internationally well recognized it is. So where does A-levels get you? Almost everywhere. UK, USA, Australia, Canada, Singapore, and even if you would like to continue your studies locally in Malaysia, that is also absolutely fine. So an example that we have here is that 2 Malaysian students managed to secure a place in Harvard College this year in 2025, and those students did their A-levels at KYUEM. Okay, so I think we've heard enough from me. Let's meet our speakers today. We've brought 3 speakers for you to share their experience doing A-levels. Our first speaker today is Lee Sing Yin. She did her A-levels at Sunway College. She's turning 20 and she did a subject combo of physics, chemistry, maths, and further maths. Her future plans are to join hackathons and take internships. She initially wanted to pursue mechanical engineering, but since physics just is not really her thing, she decided to do data science and AI instead. She's currently an ASEAN scholar at NTU. Our next speaker today is Chung Guojing, who also did his A-levels at Sunway, but he had a slightly different subject combo. He did maths, further maths, economics, and physics. And he is formerly from Conghua, and he's currently doing electrical and electronic engineering at NTU as well. And our final speaker today is Aisha Maisara, who did her A-levels at Taylor's and is a professional scholar. Her subject combo is mathematics, business, psychology, and economics. Her future plans are to serve her 5-year bond with Petronas and hopefully be able to build her career there and do something probably related to environmental justice. She is hoping to do a degree in either management or economics in the UK. All right, so without further ado, let's get started on having this conversation with our speakers. So the first question I'd like to ask is, how is your day-to-day like? What does 24 hours in the day of an A-level student look like? Can we get started with Aisha?
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Aisha. So currently I'm a student in Taylor's. I'm doing a 2-year program. So as a 2-year program student, I think my day is fairly quite free. I start my day at 6 and my class starts at 8. It ends roughly around 2. And afterwards, I usually have my own free time. It's either I do some self-managing like manage my own day-to-day affairs, or I would do homeworks. Those are the my common routine that I would do every day. Normally, that is what a normal day would look like to me. However, during peak seasons, such as during trials or during the AS or A2 exam itself, the day starts getting packer since I need to start like spamming on past year questions. And those are the times that I think my brain works the best, because due to the pressure and all that. So it differs between different seasons of different seasons of your study. So I think that is practically about my day-to-day life.
Okay, thank you so much, Aisha. That doesn't sound too bad at all. Next, could we get singing? What is a day for you like?
Hi everyone, I'm Sinin. I'm currently taking DSAI in NTU. So recalling memories from my A level, it was actually quite a disaster or nightmare for me. So basically, the college is quite a distance from my house, so I had to wake up pretty early every day. Especially if I was driving, I had to go early just to secure a parking spot. That routine left me pretty exhausted by the end of the day. But getting to campus early had its upside. I usually use that quiet time to revise topics I learned the day before, or maybe go through past year papers to reinforce my understanding. And I would say that the A level timetable is quite packed. We typically had about 4 to 6 hours of classes each day. The workload can feel intense if you're aiming for good results. But if you stay in a dorm, there's usually more opportunity to join clubs or participate in co-curricular activities. But I didn't get too involved in those since I was commuting daily, and the back and forth travel took up quite a bit of time. Yeah, that's all.
I see. Okay, thank you, Siri. So what I do understand is that the A-levels experience does vary quite heavily from college to college. So yes, please do pick your A-levels college wisely. All right, okay, so for my next question, who should take A-levels and what does it take to succeed in A-levels? Is it just grinding a bunch of past years every day, or is there like a proper system that it requires? Could we start with singing as well?
I'll start with me.
Sorry, Celine, do you mind continuing? Sorry.
Honestly, I think anyone can take A levels, but you should know upfront, like, it really takes a lot of commitment. So if your SPM fundamentals are a bit shaky and you're weak, the learning progress might be tough. That's where hard work really comes in. You need to put a lot of efforts, like double, even triple the effort to keep up with the peers. So for science subjects especially, it's important to manage your time well. You have to plan your studies and consistently review what you have learned. And I think scoring well isn't just about memorization. You need to understand the concepts deeply, and you have to know how to apply them. And I think doing lots of past year papers will really help you to get familiar with the questions patterns so you can prepare more strategically. And if you're taking 4 subjects, just as me, it's crucial to balance your effort across all of them. Or you can prioritize the ones you're weaker in. So I think time management and smart planning are key to success, to succeed in A levels. Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you. As someone who takes 4 subjects, I completely agree with what you said. You're absolutely right. Gojin, could we hear from you next?
Hi everyone, my name is Gojing, and for question B, I think who should take A level? I think A level is for the one who wants to study overseas, and what does it take to succeed in A levels? For my personal experience, I think you just need to be hardworking and do more past year papers, and just don't procrastinate. As I mean, 1.5 year or 2 years is just a short-term period, and if you procrastinate, things will get stacked up and you will just have a heavier load of things to be done. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you. Okay, so for my next question, what did you do outside of school to prepare for university, and how important are extracurriculars or supercurriculars, like we always say for UK application? How important are these um, extracurricular activities in terms of university application? Could we start with you, Aisha?
Yep, definitely. Okay. So, what did I do outside of school to prepare for university? Personally, as I am pursuing in management and economics, particularly in marketing, I did a lot of research on marketing and uh s- a concentration in marketing. For example, negotiations or strategies. Those are the things. Those are the papers that I always like research papers that I always look out for to read in order to like gain more insight about the course itself. So I think doing something else apart from your studies is very very important for you to understand your what is it that you want to study during university later on. And to be honest, I haven't really prepared much, and but it is something that it is a stepping stone lah. It is a stepping stone in order for you to understand your about your university courses. And normally yeah, the administration would look out for students who are really interested in that a subject, a particular subject. So reading research papers or shadowing a researcher can really help you understand about that topic.
Right, I think I completely agree with you. Those are also quite similar to what I've been doing as well as a STEM student. So thank you so much for that insight, Aisha. Thank you. So I think because we're a little bit short on time, we're gonna move right ahead to our final question today. And yeah, so why did you choose A levels, and how well do you think A levels prepared you for university? So I think I'm gonna shoot this one to our friends who are currently already doing their degree. So Gojin, could I hear from you on this one? How well do you think it prepared you for uni?
Yep, sure. I chose A level because I wanted to study overseas, and I think A level syllabus is more or less similar to university year one syllabus, so you won't be overwhelmed by the context and depth of the year one university syllabus when you enter university. Yeah. So
Right, that makes sense. Yep. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. I think as a further math student, I've also always heard this that further math is a very good subject to prepare you for the first year of uni since it does overlap a lot with the first year of uni syllabus. So yes, thank you so much for that session, Gojing. And yeah, I think that's all from our speakers sharing today. Okay, yes. For the last portion of this, I thought it would be really interesting to hear a little bit from Cindy, which is an ASEAN scholar. And I think we always don't hear ASEAN scholarship come up in the discussion on scholarships. So I'd just like to give me a couple of minutes to share her journey of applying for a scholarship right after the interview and then get scholarship.
Okay. I think for the ASEAN scholarship, right? I remember I had to write an essay about my leadership experience and what leadership meant to me. I also had to include some of my judgment as well. But the interview was the most important part, and honestly, I thought I messed it up. So I was really grateful when I got the scholarship. So to prepare for the interview, right, I practiced mock interviews using ChatGPT, and I think it really helped a lot. It's a good idea to prepare answers to common questions like your future plans and how you intend to achieve them. But you have to make sure your answers are detailed and also personal. And also don't forget to prepare questions to ask the interviewers, I mean, because if you're unsure about anything, it's totally okay to ask during the interview. Yeah. It's not really
It's very, very tips in you, very rarely hear people say prepare questions to ask in interviews yourself. That's a very
I
good tip.
provide time for you to ask questions. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's all from us today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for our speakers for sharing all of their very useful insights and all of their experience with us. And please do join us for our next episodes where we share a little bit more about other SPM pathways. Thank you. Bye bye.